Hey everybody, today I want to talk about the Beatles' 1970 album, Let It Be. Let It Be is probably one of the most controversial albums the Beatles ever released for a number of reasons. The first reason being that this is like divided among Beatle fans, because some Beatle fans love what Phil Spector did as far as his production work. Some people hate what Phil Spector did. Some people within the Beatles themselves liked what he did. Some within it didn't like what he did. So it's a very controversial album. And in fact, it's got a bunch of kind of just weird things attached to it, where it was the last Beatles album that was released, but it was recorded before the last recorded Beatles album, which was Abbey Road. So kind of a weird one. But today I want to specifically talk about this pressing of Let It Be. This sounds absolutely amazing. It's on my website, needlemeetsvinyl.com. Go on the website, check it out. You could pick this one up. This is such an amazing sounding version of Let It Be. It's really unlike any one that you've ever heard, and I will get into why this one sounds so good, and I will talk about some other pressings that I have here. I have a bunch of copies of Let It Be, so I'll talk about all of them. And this one, I will have to say, this was such a surprise to me. When I was trying to find the best Let It Be, it's taken me a long time because I really wanted to get it right, as I want to get all the records right. But Let It Be is kind of a weird one in the sense that it's just got so much controversy around it, and it's such kind of a hit or miss album when it comes to Beatles fans. But for me, I want to take it as it is. So this is officially the last album the Beatles released, and it is what it is. This is how it came out, and I think we have to just take it for what it is. And what it is excellent. It's got great songs. The Beatles always released excellent songs. They're playing great on this. Billy Preston's on here with them, and he sounds great. It's just an excellent album that I think it's majorly overlooked, just because it's their last, and there's just so much controversy surrounding it. So, but when I was trying to find the best pressing, this one is a bit of an oddball because this is from the 1980s, and this is on Capitol Records, and this is actually on Capitol's Rainbow label, and they brought back the Rainbow label in the 80s, around like 1983, and as you can see, it's on this Rainbow label. Now, I got to admit, I did not think that this one was going to be the best of all these. And I will show you all of the pressings that I had to work with. I did not think this is going to be the one that was going to be the one as far as the best sound. But it is. It sounds so good. It's hard to describe. And I know a lot of you are probably shaking your heads right now and saying, how is that possible? How is that Rainbow label from the 80s, a US pressing, better than a UK pressing, the Japanese pressing, even the original Apple label pressing on the red Apple label? It just is. You just have to believe me. It sounds so good. Whoever ends up buying this, I guarantee they will agree and go, yeah, it sounds amazing, because it really does. So let me show you the other copies, the other pressings I have here, and then we'll talk a little bit about why I chose that one and why it is so much better. So this pressing is the one that came in second. This is another odd one to come in second place. This sounds very good as well. This is a pressing from Holland, if you can believe it, and it sounds very good. Now, it doesn't sound, this one beats it by quite a lot, but this one beats the UK pressings that I have, and the original US pressings as well. And like I said, this is from Holland, and I will show you what it looks like. It's on the Apple label. It's on kind of a unique looking Apple label. There's side 1, there's side 2, and it does sound very good. I was really impressed when I listened to this one, and that's the key thing about trying to find the best pressings, is listening to these over and over again. And what I do is I usually pick about three songs per side and I listened to each section of those songs on each of these different pressings to find out which one's the best. And when I heard this one, it just really did blow my mind of like, wow, it sounds really, really good. It has a lot of clarity. And then, like I said, with this one absolutely blew my mind. But let me get back to that one. I'm getting a little bit off track here. So that last one was from Holland. Now, this is just, I threw it in there just for fun. This does not sound good at all. This is from Taiwan, and actually this is officially a bootleg. But I threw it in the mix just because, hey, it's Let It Be. And oddly enough, as a motorcycle goes whizzing by, oddly enough with this one, the matrix on here, this is actually a US pressing, because it has, in the dead wax, it has Phil and Ronnie, which is etched in there, and it has Bell sound. So very weird, but it's definitely a bootleg, and it doesn't sound that good. So not even part of the official running. Now this is the 2012 remaster. This one sounds really good. You can pick this one up at any of your record stores probably. It's still available. I know Barnes & Noble has these. I think Target even has these. And this one actually was made in Germany. It sounds really good. You can get this for under $30, but it does not compare to the pressing that's on my website. I'm going to stop picking up that one and showing you because you know what it looks like by now. But it just does not compare to the one that I have on my website. It's just a little bit more dull is how I would describe it. Doesn't really have as much highs, and it's just a little bit more subdued, kind of dull, which is odd to say because normally I really like the remasters. I think they're really good. But that being said, if you ended up having this as your copy of Let It Be, I'm sure you'd be happy with it. I'm sure you'd think it sounds good. But if you want to go that extra mile and get that extra special one, there are better pressings out there than this. I should also say that it's important to note that I get some people who comment on these videos and say like, oh, I miss your videos when you just talked about your records and you weren't trying to sell anything. Well, to be honest with you, yeah, I am trying to sell this pressing of Let It Be, the best one that I found. But at the same time, I'm also just talking about all these individual pressings like I would always normally do, and there's still a lot of information within these videos. So it's not just the whole time like buy, and like graphics all over the place and click here, and I'm not trying to do that because I would hate to watch that myself, and that's just not what I'm trying to do here at all. I love talking about records, and obviously I'm so happy to sell this one that I have on here and to get my website going, but it really is just about the records and the different pressings. So keep that in mind for all my future videos. Moving on here. This is an original US pressing. And this is a gatefold, which is always very cool. And this is on the red, and I have it opened up here so I can just take it right out from the sleeve. It's on the red Apple label, which I think is very cool. And the story that I heard is the reason it's on the red Apple label is because United Artists had the rights to the Let It Be soundtrack movie, and so they released their own pressings of this album. But then when Apple Records wanted to release obviously their own pressings of the record, they wanted to do it on a special label that was unique, and so they did a red label, and I think that was to indicate that it's a soundtrack. Now, I could be totally wrong with this. I'm sure there's an actual story as to why it's on the red label, and I'm sure some of you could tell me in the comments below. But that's what I've always heard, and that's what I'm going to stick to for now. So let me know if that's wrong. But again, this one is interesting in the dead wax. This is a Bell Sound pressing. And in the dead wax, it has Phil plus Ronnie. That's Phil Spector and Ronnie Spector, who was at the time his wife. And Ronnie Spector, of course, was in the Ronettes. They had the big hit, Be My Baby. But this pressing actually sounds pretty good. For a US pressing, an early Apple US pressing, it sounds really good, I gotta say. But it's definitely not my go-to as far as Let It Be goes. It's a little bit shrill, is how I would describe it. It's kind of missing a little bit of low end. I would like to have a little bit more low end. And just the high end, just at times can be a little bit thin sounding. It doesn't have that like richness to it that the pressing that I think is the best one, does have. This is another Capitol Records pressing. This is on the Capitol Purple label, which I will show you. It's got a cool inner sleeve here. And actually the inner sleeve is just the gatefold from that the previous one I just showed you. Now, there you go. This is the Purple label, Capitol, and this is mastered by Jay LeMay, who actually did a bunch of Capitol Beatle-related record mastering, or pressings rather, and I actually like a lot of his work. Unfortunately, this one is not very good in my opinion. It's a little bit dull, kind of on the quiet side, which is a little bit annoying. And of course, having it be kind of quiet is not the biggest deal. You just turn up your stereo, but it's a little bit of an annoyance in my opinion. It just doesn't really have much life to it. So I would pass. If you ever found one of these pressings, I would pass on it unless you get it for like $10 or under $10, because it just doesn't really do it as far as I'm concerned. It does come with a very cool poster, which I think is always nice. I'm not going to take the poster out because the poster is just a picture of the album cover, and it's about this big. Is how I would describe it. It's like if you had 3 more of these stacked, one on top, one over here, and one over here. That's about as big as the poster. So it's cool. I should say that the one on my website, this one, also has that same poster. So whoever buys this, you will get the poster with this. Okay, we got 2 more to talk about. Now this one is an interesting one. These last 2, by the way, were the ones that I thought were going to be the finalists for the best sounding pressings of Let It Be. This first one is, as I almost dropped it, but I caught it. Although it wouldn't have been a big deal if I dropped it. It's just a carpet, everything's fine. And they're in here nice and secure. This is a Japanese pressing of Let It Be, and it's got the gatefold, which, as always, very, very cool. This is a Japanese pressing, and this is on the Apple label, and I will show you what that looks like. And again, I got it already inside the bag. It's on that Apple label. And then there's side 2. Now, with this pressing, this used to be one of my favorite pressings of Let It Be, and I have two copies of this one, and they're both almost identical pressings. And this happens to be one of them. Now, it used to be one of my favorite pressings just because I used to think that it had such a full sound, and it just was really an exciting pressing. Now, after hearing this one that's on the website and playing it against this one, I really don't know what I was thinking, because this one is very, very dull, in my opinion. And it's so surprising because it used to be so great, but it's such a dull sounding pressing to me now. And really, I would even go with the original US pressing over the Japanese pressing at this point. And that's saying a lot, because the original US pressing is just, it's good, it's fine, it's okay. But this Japanese pressing, it just is lacking something. And the key thing that it is, when I did my research here and I really thought about it, is it's all about the high end and the low end. So the high end on this Japanese pressing, it's just not really there. It's just a little bit kind of muffled, a little bit of a muffled sound. And the low end suffers from that as well. Sure, there is a low end there, but it doesn't have a lot of definition to it. And it's just a little bit off is how I describe it. And with some of these Japanese pressings, as I've talked about with other Beatle albums, there does tend to be a little bit of distortion happening here and there. This one, I will say, though, doesn't have as much as, like the Rubber Soul Japanese pressing or the Revolver, but it has just a hint of it here and there. Not enough to make you not want to own this, because it's worth owning for sure, but just enough to be a little bit of an annoyance. So this is the Japanese, a Japanese pressing of Let It Be, and I think this is from the early to mid 70s, I believe is the year on this one. Okay, now the last one here. This is a UK pressing of Let It Be, and this is a pretty early one. I believe this is like a 1971-ish pressing of it. Now, I don't have the Let It Be box on here. I do own a Let It Be box. Mine's a Canadian pressing though, and the record is absolutely beaten up, totally thrashed, and it just doesn't really sound that good. So I didn't include it in this whole listening experience. But this is a UK pressing, and again, I thought this was going to be at least in the top 3 as far as one of the best sounding pressings of Let It Be. But it just fell short, and it's kind of a mystery because obviously Let It Be, all the songs were recorded in England. The master tape exists in England, so it's just kind of a little bit baffling as to how this US pressing sounds so much better, but it just does. And let's talk about this now. So this is the one on the website right now, needlemeansvinyl.com, and like I said, this is a early 1980s pressing on the Capitol Rainbow label. Now, why is it so much better? Here's why. As soon as you put the needle down, the first 10 seconds of Two of Us, the opening song on side 1, reveals itself to be a brilliant pressing. Sometimes you get lucky and you get something that's just extra special. Now, maybe there are other exact runs of this pressing out there that you could get, and they aren't going to sound quite nearly as good as this one. And this one just happens to be an exceptional pressing of that run. And that could be the case. Or they all sound great. I don't really know. But this one, I do know, sounds amazing. And it's all about, for me, the acoustic guitars on Two of Us. They just ring out so much more on this pressing. It's all about the bass on this pressing. The bass has so much presence. It has so much clarity and definition. It's just excellent, excellent, excellent. And I really can't say enough about this pressing. And for those of you out there saying like, well, okay, so you love it so much, why are you selling it? Well, because I have a website and I'm selling records. But I will add a little side note. I have just ordered another one of these that's a very, very close to this pressing for myself, for my own collection. I love it that much. It's really good. Another thing is these are getting really, really hard to find. I'm not sure how many of these were pressed, but I don't think it was that many, because I think around that time in the early 80s there, or early to mid 80s, that was when CDs were about to come out. Of course, the Beatles CDs were really delayed as far as at the time when technology was there. The Beatles, as always, seemed to be they took their time to adapt to the new technology. So the Beatles CDs weren't released until the late 80s, I think like 88, 87, 88. So this does predate the CDs, and it just sounds really, really good. I would be very curious to know if anyone else has had an experience with this pressing and what you think about it. Please let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think is the best sounding Let It Be out there. I'd be interested to know about that as well. But for the time being, go on my website, needlemeansvinyl.com. Check this one out. It's such a special, special one. And as I always say about Beatle records, act quickly because it will go so fast. That's just how it is. And hey, people love the Beatles. So do I. So do you. And keep listening. So that's it for now. And go to needlemeansvinyl.com. Check out everything I have on there. And we'll talk to you later. Bye for now.